What's going on, everyone? So now that the roster appears fully settled, fully done, after signing Bismack Biyombo, technically they do have Lindsey Waters, who's on a partial guarantee. So they could always just to maintain that flexibility. Somebody gets bought out or something around the trade deadline or something where it's like, hey, this is a guy that really makes some sense for us. Let's bring him in type thing. But chances are, roster is what we see how it is. I do think that there is a lot of potential for trades at some point during the season, especially if the Spurs are really good. Like I could see them maybe consolidating some guys and trying to maybe make a push. Right? And like, hey, we're the 5th seed right now, approaching the trade deadline. Can maybe we make a key move or two and maybe end up the 3rd or 4th seed, or even if we finish the 5th seed, just give us a better chance come playoff time. I could definitely see something like that. There's also the potential of just like a consolidation trade period because of all the depth that this team has. And, the question about minutes. Are they going to be able to have the minutes? Right. But that's kind of what I want to get into is the depth of this team, because I do think it's a strength. There's a lot of reports about like there's not enough minutes for everybody, and I did a video on that. But I also think that there is a lot of strengths into this Spurs roster. Now, they do have a lot of young guys that they're trying to develop, which could pose some problems, right? Because the quickest way to development is getting guys minutes and letting guys play. And the Spurs being a team that's not just trying to like, hey, let's do another year tank for the bottom and just let the young guys run wild. Team that's actually made moves and added veterans and solved some key position spots and stuff like that. Trying to be one of the more improved, upgraded teams. I look at the Spurs and it's like, there are kind of questions about like how quickly are you going to be able to expedite some of these people's or some of these players' developments. Guys like Carter Bryant, is he going to just kind of be the odd man out, or is he going to get to play? Even Dylan Harper, how many minutes he's going to play? He's comfortable, coming off the bench. He's even said it himself, like he compared it to James Harden with OKC, right? But like all of a sudden you start getting 15 minutes a night and it's like, dude, I'm supposed to be the guy, right? Like, does that start getting in the way, right? Depth on paper is always great to have, right? But depth can also pose a lot of issues, a lot of concerns, right? Because, you get guys like a Harrison Barnes, let's say, which I don't think he will be, I think he'll actually be one of the guys that play the most, but let's just say for argument's sake, they do start going with some of the young guys. Harrison Barnes is sitting around going like, dude, like I could be a starter on most teams in the league still. And now you have me as like the 7th, 8th, 9th guy. It's like, get me out of here type thing. Or it just in general, it's hard. Like you look at teams like the Clippers, everyone's like, man, the Clippers are so deep. Like that's great, but you have 3 guys now, if not more, that were used to being in the top end rotation that now could end up being the odd man now, right? And you got agents involved, and you got players' egos, you got all kinds of things that it can pose some issues. And that's with veterans that understand and know and grasp and are like, hey, I've been here, we've done this, right? You need to have everyone bought in. You need to have everyone believing like, hey, we're on this mission, on this goal, right? That was part of what made the Spurs so great over so many years and in their dynasty era is you had the egos checked at the door. You had guys like Manu Ginobili, who easily could have been a starter on almost every team in the league, who was like, hey, no, I'm fine coming off the bench, right? You had guys that were starters in other places that were coming other things. You had guys like, Boris Diaw and Steven Jackson and guys like that came in and bought into a role and played a role. I mean, even Steven Jackson has talked about how like, dude, I was averaging like, 18 or whatever on this team. I go to the Spurs and I'm just like basically relegated to a role player, but that's part of it. You need guys that are willing to kind of check their egos for the greater good in order to win. Got to keep in mind though, it's a new era. Young guys are a lot more pampered, a lot more, they're uplifted more. They got social media followings. They got all this other stuff. The egos are bigger, right? Not all the guys are foreign players. Like, you look at with the Spurs, like the Spurs dynasty was just like the perfect mix of guys, like Timmy and just his demeanor and just, he didn't care. He just wanted to win, right? Like you need, like, is everyone going to buy into that? There are those questions with that, right? And now you have a bunch of young guys that are all, Jeremy Sohan's playing in a contract year. Now, if he's playing 8 minutes a night, is he going to be happy about that? Devin Vassell, does he end up kind of Keldon Johnson? Like there's so many guys, Julian Champagny, so on and so forth. Go down the list. There's a lot of guys that you can make arguments for. You can also make arguments against. And so you're going to have a lot of guys that are going to kind of rise to the top. You're going to have a lot of guys that kind of on the back end, right? But on the positive note, right, for a young team, it gives guys the next man up mentality. It'll allow you to sustain better over the course of an 82 game season, right? Like, this is a team that, again, wants to take real strides, wants to take real growth, wants to have the opportunities to get into the playoffs and maybe make some noise, maybe go on like an Indiana level run or something like that. I don't think there's really the championship level expectations, but, could you maybe stumble face first in the conference finals or something? You get the right matchups, right role, guys are healthy, guys are cooking, you built that chemistry, you built that understanding, guys are really locked in and bought in. We've seen teams just get hot at the right time and go on the right run. You never know, right? It's not something I think that we should count on or expect, but I do think it's something that could very well, play out that way. But, it gives you the roster flexibility, it gives you the versatility, right? I've talked about, one of the best ways to go on deep playoff runs and be one of the better teams is to be as chameleon-like as possible, right? Like, especially in a league that we've seen the last few years in particularly is so matchup dependent, right? You get the right matchups, you can get to the conference finals. Well, how do you better match up against teams? You become as chameleon-like as possible, right? So if you play Dallas in a playoff series, well, you can go Luke Cornett and Victor Wembanyama to match up against their two bigs. You play a team like the Golden State Warriors, you can go with something like, Wemby at the 5 with like a Harrison Barnes and, whoever, a Julian Champagnie or something like that, or maybe go Devin Vassell, right? Like, you can match up with kind of the small ball and the size and stuff like that. Whatever team you play, whatever, matchup is called for, you have the depth and the versatility off the bench. If a guy misses significant time, which just naturally is part of the game over the course of an 82 game season, you have kind of that next guy up that can play. There's going to be minutes for a lot of guys, right? It's just, again, are these young guys going to be able to put their kind of egos aside? And that's going to come a lot down to the coaching as well, right? Mitch has got to be able to really get these guys to believe and buy in and trust the process. Get a guy like Carter Bryant who's coming in like, hey, man, I know what I can do, X, Y, and Z. And if he's getting DMPs and stuff, he starts getting a little antsy. He's like, dude, come on, like, I want to play. Is Mitch and the coach staff, are they going to be able to kind of reel them in and keep them right? If they can, sky's the limit for this team. I mean, don't be surprised if they're actually very good this season. I have talked about it. I think that at worst they're a play-in team. I think at best they could squeeze into like maybe the 6th seed. West is just so tight and so tough. It's just, to me, it's really like how much better is Wemby this year? How good does De'Aaron Fox kind of fit in? A lot of factors that go into it. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. As we enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.